Do you still have moments with Bitcoin where you have a kind of like you have a step change, deeper understanding of it and become even more convinced by it? Because just like then I hadn't heard Satoshi explain it like that, but to hear you explain what commodity money is and then explain Bitcoin as digital commodity money, that is another step change for me, another kind of light bulb moment. Yeah.
Yeah, I think we all kind of approach it from lenses we understand. So that was one of my early ways of approaching it,
right,
is seeing it as digital commodity money. That's kind of how I got it first. And all my hesitations were like, what are ways that this could be, damaged, or how could its immutability be compromised? How could its shortcomings be exploited? Things like that. So it's more like from the very beginning, I acknowledged it as commodity money, and then it was like, is it good enough commodity money? Just how in the past, different commodity monies would compete and some of them would be found wanting and would get kind of pushed aside as money. So the whole question was, how hard is Bitcoin? How is it going to hold up in the long term as commodity money? And so the longer it goes, the more of its properties you understand, it's doing quite well. And so I think for me, the biggest implications are just seeing how it can change finance. The larger it gets and the more development that happens on it. So for now, I'm looking at things like other layers, what's happening in Lightning, what's happening on Liquid, things like that, and how that can transform some of the ways that all of finance operates. And I think the idea of having, the whole point is you have an immutable base layer and then a programmable other aspects of it. So you can do programming on top. It's basically programmable commodity money. And I think the implications of that are crazy, especially when you look out 10, 20 years, because software is one of the few things that just keeps expanding exponentially. And it's like, what is it going to look like in 20 years when you have programmable money and people have been programming on it for decades?
Maybe that's your book.
I think I'd have to hire programmers to help me. I've written some code, but I'm in no means a programmer, so I'd have to.
I think more when you talk about how it can change finance, what are the things you're kind of looking out for on these layers? Like at a rudimentary level, I'm really interested in these new Bitcoin-backed mortgages. I think they're fascinating. For me, like I've just bought a house, so the timing isn't right. But if it was in now and I could get one of these Bitcoin mortgages, they actually, to me, make a lot of sense. But what are the kind of things that you're looking at? Are there big changes in finance you think Bitcoin can bring in?
Well, I think longer term, yes. I think basically over the past couple of decades, we've monetized non-money assets because our money's been so bad, right? Because our money constantly devalues. We're like, this is a hot potato. We want to get rid of it. And so we put a monetary premium on other things. And that actually makes those things less accessible for people that just want to use those for the utility value. So for example, if I don't know what to do with my money, so I buy a second home, and I treat that as an investment, if enough people have that practice, it bids up the price of homes and therefore makes buying a first home less accessible to someone who really just wants the utility value of a home. And the same thing for stocks. We've bid up the valuations of stocks because we're saying, okay, I'd rather store my money in a diverse collection of stocks than in bond dollars or treasuries. And one of the things that if you have the reintroduction of credible hard money, it can demonetize some of those assets, take away that extra monetary premium. So they're still valuable. Real estate's still valuable. Equities are still valuable, but you might have less of a valuation premium on them. And that could make them more accessible to people, make their returns better. And you put that monetary premium in the hard money. So I think that's one. But then two, you have all sorts of like just improvements. You apply automation to finance. So, you have less friction and gummed up issues in the whole banking system, right? And so it's a very manual process, and you can take out a large portion of that manual process and automate it. And so if money moves faster, the question is, how can that influence economic growth rates? So as kind of the world population has aged and kind of slowed down, GDP growth has been on the downtrend. And the question is, if you unlock faster money, what does that mean? And freer money, and more people able to access that money. So for example, if people around the world that are kind of in these, say periphery markets that have trouble accessing good money, what if we expand dramatically the number of people in the world that are able to access good money? What can they do with it, right? And so that's exciting to me because you open up the market for so many more people and talented people throughout the world that can now access this open monetary network.